So it's just some alphabet soup. And recently the list has grown. So now we have one more acronym, MCP. In this talk, we will cover a bit of theory as well as practice. So I think this is a good starting point if you never used it or just used it a bit and you want to know more how to create your own MCP service. A bit about me, I'm a software engineer and I do consulting mainly in .NET space. And apart from doing my consulting work, I also run a clean architecture workshop with my colleague, Dan Mackay. And actually this talk was born, I would say, in Brisbane when we were doing a clean architecture course there. And we were sitting in a cafe and discussing the latest news. And he proposed an idea and he said something like, hey, maybe you should do a talk about MCP. So my first thought was, well, that's a good idea. A couple of days and I'll be done. But after a few weeks, I realized that it wasn't really that easy. Not because the tech is complex, but because it's pretty new. So there are a couple of moving parts and it evolves really quickly. So yeah, you need to know what you're doing. And if you know, then everything will be easy for you. So I see this talk as a time saver for you. So I will mention a couple of things which I stumbled upon, and hopefully it will save you time. So here's a bit of history, how we came to MCP. In November 2022, ChatGPT was released. So every developer on the planet was super excited. Why? Because we all thought that maybe that age when everyone will become Tony Stark is close, and everyone will have Jarvis, its personal assistant. You just talk to it as a human, and it does what you want. But we quickly realized that ChatGPT wasn't Jarvis, mainly for two reasons. The first one was knowledge cutoff. For ChatGPT 3.5, it was September 2021, so almost like a year before it was released. And the second problem, it was that ChatGPT couldn't perform actions. So it could give you answers, but it couldn't send an email. It couldn't trigger an API or anything like that. The solution around the first problem was found pretty quickly. So people realized that, well, before we generate an answer and send it to the user, we need to retrieve our own data, which we have in our database, in our files, and then augment the prompt, which we send to LLM, so that LLM can process the data and give the response back. So this is how the problem about knowledge cutoff was solved at first. And you might be familiar with this approach. It's called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And what's interesting, RAG was introduced before ChatGPT was released. I think it was coined by one of the researchers at Meta. And yeah, it found great use with ChatGPT. Then, in 5 months, in March 2023, ChatGPT plugins were released. And they let model to call external APIs. So now we had this kind of very close behavior to Jarvis. You can solve the problem with knowledge cutoff, and now you can finally call actions. Then in November 2023, custom GPTs were released, which allowed you to configure ChatGPT in your own way, provide data, like assign a style to it, so that it can behave like a human assistant. And finally, in November 24, 2024, MCP was introduced. So what is MCP? MCP, just a spoiler alert, you can't do something new with it. So it's a standard. Everything was possible before MCP was introduced, but MCP standardized the way how applications interact with large language models. So look at this graph. So on the left, every model connects to every service. So if you have several AI models and you have several APIs, you need to implement multiple integrations. So it's like M times N, and this is pretty messy. And on the right, we have this thin layer in between, which is called MCP, and applications connect to it. So the integration becomes much, much easier. Okay, let's have a look at the architecture of MCP. So this is a specification. You can find it online, read it. And now there are 3 versions of it. The recent one was released in June this year. So we have my chat application. This is the first term which is used in this specification, and it's called host. In our case, it can be any AI chat application like GitHub Copilot, Claude Desktop, and others, or you can write your own. And we have LLM, and that chat application talks to the LLM. So when we have our resources, and they are accessible, resources or tools, they are accessible via MCP protocol. So there are 2 other concepts, important concepts, is MCP client and MCP server, and they always come in pairs. So MCP enables you to build modular AI systems. There are multiple use cases for MCP, like for non-devs, you can just install MCP server and you can start using it. But for developers, you can obviously develop MCP server and create like custom host. You can create MCP client, MCP server, or all of it together. But I think the most popular use case is going to be building MCP servers so that people can use them. MCP also has, this specification mentions several features, capabilities, or primitives, whatever you want to call them. And the first one, I think the most important one, is tools. So those are actions, discrete actions or functions which you can call, which AI can call. And when they need to be called also is decided by AI. Now we'll do a quick demo, and I will show you how easy it is to create a simple MCP server with a tool and hook it up with an AI chat application. So here I have the simplest application possible. It's a console hello world application in .NET. We're using .NET 9. And what we're going to do, so we want to create a tool. First of all, we go and create, let's say, folder tools. And then we will create a class called communication tools. Now we want to create the actual action which we want to call. Let's say that we want to send an email to Nick Fury. Well, obviously that's a useful feature everyone in the Marvel team wants to have. So we'll call it send email to Nick Fury, and we just pass a message. And we will say something something like that. Email sent to Nick Fury. Yeah. All right. Now we need to add a few attributes to say that this is not just a method, but this is actually a tool which AI can call. So, but before we do that, we need to install a special package which is called Model Context Protocol. It's still in pre-release version, so breaking changes are possible. And I'll also install extensions hosting package. Cool. So that first package, Model Context Protocol, now we have it here. It's version 0.3.0. It has multiple attributes. If we start typing MCP, we will see that we have 3 pairs of attributes. The first one, let's say a server tool, and then MCP server tool type. So the class which groups tools, we mark it with MCP server tool type. And then the tool itself, we mark it with the MCP server tool attribute. Now we can add the name for that tool. Send email to Nick, and we can also add. We can also set other properties, like we can say whether it's destructive or not. Obviously, tools, they can delete something on your system, and yeah, it's good to provide that information to AI. Whether it's idempotent, whether it communicates with the open world, whether it's read-only title, it's basically the name, but just a bit longer. And we will also provide description. Yeah. Which will be read by LLM, and it will explain what it does. Okay, so the last step which we need to do is to configure our application and say, hey, this is an MCP server. I'll delete this part. Now just copy and paste this code. So basically we create, in this case, like empty application builder. We say that we want to add MCP server. We configure it as, we configure the transport as standard input output. I will talk about it a bit further. And then we say that, hey, scan this assembly and look for those attributes, and those are going to be tools. So it's like automatic discovery of tools. Yeah, now we can build it. Okay, and I will launch Claude Desktop. We'll hook it up to our chat application here. So if you go to settings, then at the bottom there is a developer section. You click edit config, and it should open a configuration file. Yeah, for MCP servers, for Claude Desktop. I will call this server demo1. Then we need to pass the command, which will be used to run this MCP server, and arguments. So that's run, and we specify the path to the project. By the way, for some reason, when you configure MCP servers for Cloud Desktop, you need to specify the full path to .NET. You don't have to do it when you use GitHub Copilot, but yeah, Cloud Desktop needs it for some reason. So now we can restart the application. I need to kill it actually. And at that point, if something is wrong with either your server or the configuration, you'll see a bunch of errors. So if that didn't happen, it's a good sign. Now, if we click on this icon, we can see that there is demo 1 menu item here, and it has my tool which I just created, send email to Nick. I will paste a prompt. So we will ask our AI to send an email to Mr. Fury saying that I'm not coming to work today, and we will ask it to make up a reason. Cool, and we see this panel here, which actually shows which parameters were passed to that tool and what was the response. So it's saying that, hey, Mr. Fury, this is the part of our tool. Yeah, this is the message, and then it returns email sent to Nick Fury and the email itself. I already ran this tool before, but if you run the tool for the first time, you will be prompted to say that, hey, this tool is about to be called. Do you want it to happen or not? And this is one of the important aspects in MCP. It's called human in the loop. So whenever you are prompted to do something, you need to confirm the action, because as I said, those actions, they can be destructive. Now let's quickly hook this up to GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Copilot has another file, so it's called MCP JSON. The previous one was called Cloud Desktop JSON. And if we paste the same configuration here, it should work. So we have this button appeared, and we can start the tool. So again, if it failed, there will be an error saying that it failed, but now we can see it running. And in our chat, we can find the demo 1 MCP server. So why there are 2 MCP servers? This one is the old one, which I used before. So this one is the new one. So you don't, for local MCP servers, you don't need to start anything. Once you start the client AI application, it will start your MCP server. And if we send the same prompt to GitHub Copilot, we should get similar response. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, the human in the loop feature. So now I can allow this action for this session, workspace, or like always, or just once. Yeah, I think in the future, I'm not sure if, now you can edit it. Yeah, maybe you can, before you click continue, you can edit the parameters which are passed to that tool. So this is what we get back. Okay, all that shows that our tool is working, and it just took you a couple of lines of code to get it up and running. All right, what we've just done. So we created a simple MCP server with just one tool. We integrated it with MCP. We integrated it with Cloud Desktop, which is host, and we submitted a simple prompt which triggered our tool. So LLM decided, based on our prompt, that this tool should be called. We didn't implement MCP host or MCP client. We just used a chat client for that. And obviously, you need your own like API, which actually sends emails. But this is outside of the scope of this talk. So you might have noticed that what we've done before is all done locally. And yeah, as you saw, I created a console app. But what if we could use a remote MCP server, and you can absolutely do it. This is part of the spec, and we will do it today also with a simple example. So MCP spec mentions different types of transports. So the one we used was standard input-output. It's like writing and reading from a console. In the first version, they also had HTTP plus server-side events, server-sent events, and they were replaced with streamable HTTP. So this is how it works now. And finally, you can also create your custom transport if you need to, but probably you don't. There are a few other important server features. So the first one was tools, but the second one is resources. So resources, they are read-only documents the server can, provide to the client, and they will be submitted to LLM. Another one is prompts. So those are predefined prompts. Our was, very short, but if you have a big detailed prompt, you probably want to save it somewhere and provide to your users. So this is the way to do it. Apart from server features, there are also client features like sampling. So this is a feature which allows the server to request completion from the client. Another one is routes. Those are basically URIs which define the boundary for MCP server. MCP server should respect them, but don't have to. So it's a bit of a kind of advice for the server where to look at. And the last one, which was introduced in the latest version of specification, is called elicitation. So this is a way for MCP server to request specific information from the client during interaction. So for example, like to ask a question so that user can type something, and then LLM can finish its task. Now let's have a look how all that fits together. All right, now we already have one tool. Let's add resources. I will create a folder called resources and a class called Ironman plots. Again, we will create a method which is supposed to return a plot. We'll call it get Ironman plots. We'll get the plot later. So now we need to, same as with tools, we need to mark our class and our method with certain attributes. So we type MCP and we pick this one, MCP server resource type, for the class. We can add the URI template. I think no. The URI, yeah, URI template is assigned here in MCP server resource. Yeah, here it is. So we can pick any URI with plots, Iron Man, and then we pick a name. If you don't set a name, it will be, I think, this method. Yeah, and we can also specify the MIME type. One more attribute, so description, which tells LLM what this resource does. And finally, we just need to grab the plot. So I'll go and Google it. Okay, now we can build it. And if we restart Claude, we won't see anything because we also need to register resources. So we need to go here and say with resources from assembly. So, and again, the assembly will be scanned for these attributes. One more time, if we did anything wrong, so we would see a bunch of errors right here. So if we click on this icon, now we see a menu item called add from demo 1, and we see the file which we call Iron Man plots. So we can ask, who is Tony Stark? And let's see what it answers. Yeah, I misspelled it. So, and we see that it picked up Jack Sparrow. So it was actually using this file to answer the question. So it wasn't using its own knowledge. All right, now let's add a prompt. Same idea. We create prompts folder, and let's call them, I don't know, text prompts. Okay, so this prompt will be named like this, summary underscore prompt. It has a description, and the prompt is going to be list the main characters using bullet points. Do not give any recommendations or corrections. And the next step, we also need to configure the application and say with prompts from assembly. Before we run one more, well, before we submit that prompt, I also want to add one more tool. Let's call it save to DB. It just to show you how those tools, prompts, and resources can work together. So this tool just does nothing. It's a .NET application, so you can use EF core here. You can save to files, call APIs, whatever you want. So as long as a LLM calls this method. So it just returns a message. But what I want to show you how everything works together. So I will build and kill Cloud Desktop, run it again. Okay, no errors. That's a good sign. Now here we can see our new prompt, our file. So we select the prompt, we select the file. We can see two tools, the one which sends email to Nick Fury and the one which saves to database, and we just submit one prompt. So what I expect here to happen? I expect LLM to take the plot, look through it, then use the predefined prompt to list all the main characters, and then save the result to the database. Call the new tool I've just created. Let's see if it's gonna figure it out. Okay, it lists the main characters. So we've got Jack Sparrow. We see that it called save to DB tool, and the output is what we predefined. So this is pretty cool. Basically, LLM was able to figure out what it needs to do based on different types of inputs, actions, data, prompt, and it did what I expected. It's good when things go well, but when they don't, you need to be able to debug your application. And for that reason, there is a special application called Inspector. So if I run npx command model context protocol / inspector, yeah, we will see a web application. You can think of it as Swagger for MCPs. So here's the transport type used. Here's the command, which is used to run the server. You can also configure environment variables. You can set authentication. Just configure request timeouts and other things. So, oops. Yeah, now we connected to MCP, and we have different concepts here at the top: resources, prompts, tools, pin, like sampling, elicitations, routes, and auth. We will quickly look at some of them. So if we click list resources, so it will return all resources available with your server. And we have just this one, Ironman plots. We have just one prompt. If you get it, yeah, here is the prompt we specified before, and tools. So you can list all the tools and you can trigger them. You might have noticed that there is resource templates heading here. And this is another cool feature. So resource we created before, it was static. But you can also pass parameters in URL. And this is called resource templates. So you can see that I pasted it in the wrong place. So let's go to resources. Now we will pass year to this method, and based on the year, we can determine what we want to return. For example, if it's 2010, then it's Iron Man 2. Otherwise, it's Iron Man 3, for example. Okay, let's build it. We restart the server. And now click list templates. So now we have another resource. And here you can provide the input parameter. So for example, 2010, read resource, so we get Iron Man 2 back. If we type, 2020, we'll get Iron Man 3, which is not true, but whatever. Yeah, so the resource templates allow you to return resources dynamically based on the provided parameter. Cool. And last thing I wanted to show you today is how you can create not only local MCPs, but also remote MCPs, because this is much more convenient. If you want to share the wonderful MCP you created, you just publish it somewhere, you have a URL, and anyone can connect to it and use it. Okay, I'll open another project. Again, it's the simplest application possible, console app. But now we need to tweak a few things to make it a remote MCP server. So first of all, we change the SDK. And then we need to install the package. But this time, it's not just model context protocol, it's .ASP.NET Core, which is also a pre-released version. And if I do it from the right folder, it will work. Yep. I will just, I'll just copy this tool from demo 1 to demo 2. And we need to do the configuration. So we create a builder, same as with the previous example, we add MCP server, but this time we configure HTTP as transport, not standard input-output. And then we say that, hey, go and find all the tools in this application. And we also need to call MCP. And then we say on which port we are going to be running. So I need to run it now. And then we need to add this MCP server to our chat application. You can do it in Cloud Desktop, but it's not a free feature, so you need to pay. So they've got like 3 tiers, free, pro, and something else. So I think now you can do it with pro, but 2 months ago, you could only add remote MCP servers if you were paying for the top tier, which is like $200 or something like that a month. So, but you can do it for free with GitHub Copilot. And this is what we're gonna do. And this should be inside servers. Yeah. Cool. So we specify the type, SSC. That's also a bit confusing. I find it confusing because it's not SSC anymore. It's streamable HTTP, but still the type, I think it's like, they didn't change that part. It's still SSC and the endpoint is SSC. Cool. If we now start it, again, we have the endpoint running. And now, to avoid confusion, let's go back quickly and rename this tool. Yeah, we will call it remote send email to Nick. Build, run, go back. We restart the server. It's running. Yeah. And now I'll just disable this ones. So this is our demo 2. Remote send email to Nick. Yeah, where's my prompt? Yeah, and again, we will ask our AI to send an email to Mr. Fury. So one more time. So it will prompt us for, yeah, and we get result back. Cool. All right, what we've done. So we added resources, we added prompts, we added one more tool, and look how all that works together. We also looked at how to work with debugger. And finally, we created a remote MCP server, which we used. That's all good, but how you want to deploy it? So how you can get people to use the MCP which you created. So if it's a remote MCP server, then it's easy. So you just deploy it. There is an endpoint. Anyone can add that configuration to their chat application. So the whole process of like adding configuration is a bit clumsy, not really convenient, but yeah, hopefully we'll have something better in the future. But for local MCP servers, you have several options. The first one is Docker. So there is Docker MCP toolkit. You can go to Docker and see the MCPs which are available there. I think Docker does some verification on submitted MCPs. You can submit your own. So they say that it's secure to use MCPs published on their MCP toolkit platform. And at that point, there are like around 150 MCP servers. And it's easy with Docker. So basically, it spins up a container, and it's easy to configure authentication, hook it up in your chat application. So you don't have to go and edit configs or like run VS Code and things like that. So it's just click, 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 and you have it running. Another option is NuGet. Recently, I think a month ago, NuGet started also providing this feature. So now you can pack your MCP servers in a NuGet package, publish it, and people can use it. So they will be using it. They'll just need to can't recall what this new tool is called. It's like it's similar like NPX to .NET. It's a new .NET 10 feature. So that's why you will need some. You will need like preview 7 or something to get it working. Actually, let's quickly check. It's preview 6 or higher. And then to get it working, you just DNX. Yeah, this is the new tool which is coming in .NET 10. Yeah. All right. Summary. So today we focused on MCP servers. There are also MCP clients, but I think most of the people, they will be building MCP servers so that their API can be used via a chat client. I didn't mention it, but at that point there are 9 SDKs. So 2 months ago, or like 3 months ago, there were 5 SDKs, like Python, TypeScript, Java, Kotlin, and C#. But now they added Swift, Go, Rust, and something else, Ruby, I believe. So there are 3 components in MCP host: the AI application like Claude Desktop or GitHub Copilot, MCP server, and MCP client. And there are 6 features: tools, resources, and prompts, sampling routes, and elicitations. There are 2 transports: standard I/O and streamable HTTP. So here are a few problems which I run into. That list, it gets smaller every month. When I started looking at it a couple of months back, it was really challenging because documentation wasn't good, and sometimes examples, they didn't work. So, but still, you can see that MCP hosts, they support different subsets of MCP spec. So you go to MCP website, you read about features, and you think, hey, okay, I'll get it working, but not really. So sometimes Claude Desktop doesn't support something, or let's say SDK which you are using doesn't support it yet. Features are released pretty quickly, but still, if you are struggling with something, probably it's not you, probably it's just technology need to keep up. Another one, Claude Desktop doesn't support remote MCP servers. So with an asterisk, like free Claude Desktop doesn't support them. And it also doesn't support resource templates. So GitHub Copilot does support them, but in Claude Desktop, I hope this feature is coming soon. So for the inspector to be working, you need at least Node version 22.7.5 or higher. So if you get weird errors, check the Node version first. For some reason, Debugger doesn't attach to MCP server, which was started by Claude Desktop. I was able to connect Debugger to MCP server started by Copilot, but for some reason with Claude Desktop it didn't work. Okay, what's next? So we can expect wider MCP adoption. So you see that more and more companies, they release MCPs for the APIs which they already have, so that people can use those APIs via a chat. Another one is MCP registry. So this is what currently happening. So with that Docker MCP toolkit, so Docker says like, hey, you can find MCPs here. And then NuGet goes and says, hey, you can find MCPs on NuGet. And Anthropic wants to build like a single MCP registry where everyone can go and basically grab MCP servers. Also, we can expect multimodality support for MCP. At that point, only text is supported, but in the future, would be nice to have video, audio, pictures, things like that. And hopefully, we'll be closer and closer to the point where AI will become Jarvis. Okay, what to read and watch? So obviously, the first one is Model Context Protocol specification. It's very well written, so the website is nice. It's not like reading RFC or something. It's really good, and you should definitely check it out. So and the second one is you need to check the SDKs for languages you are using. because again, features might be not on par with like other SDKs or with specification, and you can quickly see and understand what functionality is available. Then another one is Inspector. This is a separate repository. If you have any problems running it, yeah, you go there. Then there is a description how to connect MCP servers to VS Code. Yeah, that's also useful. The fifth one is in the IBM technology YouTube. I found it really useful. So they record a bunch of videos on AI. Yeah, if you wanna learn something, that's a good place to start. And the last two, so it's a blog by my colleague, Dan Mackay, and the last one is the talk which was on this user group last month, was presented by Callum, another colleague. So, and it more about practical use of MCPs. So yeah, you're welcome to go and check it out. We also have an application which we use for meetups and user groups. It's called SSW Rewards. So for filling a questionnaire, a form today, you can get 500 points. And then using that app, you can exchange those points for different swag and different goods. Those are QR codes, guys. Yeah, the first one is for the app, and the second one is for the form. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been obviously Anton and everyone here at SSW. We appreciate your time. And if you want to see the next one, it's the third Wednesday of each month. We'll see you at the next one. Thank you very much. See ya.